Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, I wanted to talk about what happened coming out of the January 6th hearing, the last hearing of the committee, and what they recommended to the Department of Justice. We'll have that conversation. Also, Elon Musk has asked Twitter followers to vote on whether he should stay as the lead of the social media platform. Guess what? They said no. We'll see what happens next. We'll have that conversation. And I'm also going to be talking to my guy Scotty to give us the latest about Deion Sanders, what Deion has said in his press conference after the Celebration Bowl this weekend, why he decided to move to Colorado University. We're going to play a little bit of that video. And of course, the state of Puerto Rico is looking to become an official state of the United States, making the states of the United States 51 instead of just 50. We'll be checking in with Brother Mike and Hotep to get his take on this, the possibility of this happening. So stay with us. All of that is happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. You ready? Let's go. Folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I am very, very excited about today's show as we got some great discussions for you lined up. Make sure y'all join us in our chat because we want you to be a part of the online culture crew where you can be a part of the conversation just as much as I'm having it with folks. I want to have the conversation with you. So get ready. In a few moments, we'll point out a couple of highlight some of the comments and the thoughts that many of you have about these topics that we got presented for you. And let me share this with you folks. The topics that we got today are hot topics. These are conversations that are happening all around the country, and we want to hear what you have to say. So as we're streaming on Facebook and YouTube and blackstarnetwork.com, make sure that you do your due diligence and join us for the conversation, and we'll see where the conversation goes from there. All right, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, the January 6th committee, they had their last hearing today, and guess what? It's not without excitement. Yep, folks, let me tell you. The January 6th committee has decided to recommend that former President Donald Trump be prosecuted by the Department of Justice. Let me just share with you a little bit about what the committee had to say and what the reports are around the situation. Take a look at this here, folks. This is coming from the wrap-up work with a roadmap to justice for Trump. Now, while criminal referral is mostly symbolic, with the Justice Department ultimately deciding whether to prosecute Trump or others, it is a decisive end to a probe that had an almost singular focus from the start. Chairman Benny Thomas, the Democrat out of Mississippi, said Trump, quote, broke the faith that people have when they cast ballots in a democracy. He lost the 2020 election and knew it, Thompson said, but he chose to try to stay in office through a multi-part scheme to overturn the results and block the transfer of power. Yeah, folks. He also, the chairman also said that the criminal justice system can provide accountability, adding, we have every confidence that the work of this committee will help provide a roadmap to justice. And then Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney, the panel's Republican vice chairwoman, said in an opening remarks that every president in American history has defended the orderly transfer of power except one, Trump. Yep. It's official, folks. They have urged Trump prosecution with a criminal referral. I wanted to get your take on this, folks, and get your thoughts on this. Make sure y'all join us in the conversation as you post your comments in our chats. But this takes the discussion to a whole new level, folks. a whole new level. And I want to we're going to play for you in a moment the video of what was said, how everything was, just a little excerpt of today's hearing. But while we're doing that, let's make sure that we get your take on this. Do you think that this was a good move? Do you think that it was necessary for the January 6th committee to refer former President Donald Trump to the Department of Justice to be prosecuted? Do you think this was necessary? Do you think this was the right move? This was the right thing to do? Or should it not have been done? Now, as we mentioned before, there has been already 9 hearings. This was the wrap-up hearing, and we can expect to have a final report before the end of this month. That's what their timeline is. But the question becomes, does this lead to a criminal prosecution of the former president for his involvement? Now, I've said this on the show, and Brother Roland has said, I think a lot of people have just said this, folks. There is no doubt. Let's keep it real. There is no doubt that what President Donald Trump said on that day in front of the White House led to the storming of the Capitol. No doubt at all. No doubt. It's just a matter of proving it and in all of its intricacies. It's a matter of trying to make sure that you can connect the dots for people, that because of what the president said, it led to this, it led to that. That's the part, proving it without a shadow of doubt. Without a shadow of doubt. All right, let me go to you as our online culture crew, hear what you got to say. Folks, continue to post your comments in our chat, and we will do our best to try to highlight all of you. Very quickly, let's go to Shalinda, kicking us off this afternoon. Shalinda, you said Rico charged, here we come. Marilyn Garlick, do your J-O-B. Do your job, Mr. Garland. All right, Shalinda, I hear you. I hear you. Rico charges. Yes. Let's talk about let's get something from DeAndre. DeAndre checked in. Shalinda, thank you so much, sis. My guy, DeAndre, you say recommend is the key word, though. Let's see what happens after this. I actually think this new wave of anti-Trump Republicans want him out the way to push their current agenda, faces, and candidates. Hey, yo, DeAndre, I think so, too. I think so, too. I think they're getting a little tired of, I mean, he cost them some major elections in big states from the November elections. And I mean, people have cost people elections all the time, but you cost elections, you're draining the money from the GOP because some of this stuff is coming out of the coffers of the GOP. So you're draining money, you're costing elections, you pushing $99 trading cards. You don't come across as being a legitimate candidate. You don't come across as being one who was in the office before. You come across as being a newbie. You're making freshman mistakes at a senior level. Y'all get the picture, right? So it's like, is the GOP going to ride with this guy all the way till the wheels fall off? Or are they going to look at it, especially when you have a DeSantis? We talked about Tim Scott the other day. When you have all of these other options, your bench, you're like, do you go with the quote unquote former star player, or do you kind of bring in some new juice? And I think that's what the GOP is happening. Now, I want to put this in its proper context as we get your thoughts, folks, and continue to post them. This has never happened before. This has never happened before. Liz Cheney, I shared with you what she said, that all the presidents, regardless of their political affiliations, regardless of their political ideology about who's coming behind them, their successor of the seat, all the presidents have basically submitted that this is going to be the way we do the transfer of power. We're not going to interrupt this. It is what it is, that type of thing, except for this guy. So when you put this in a context that this has never happened to any U.S. president, that no U.S. president has ever put himself in a position where he is seen as the agitator that led to the storming of a Capitol. I mean, it's never happened like that. So when you think about just the larger context of what's happening here, it's almost as if the January 6th committee would not do anything, it would be a slap in the face. Like if they didn't recommend, and I'm going back to your word, DeAndre, they didn't recommend anything, it would be a slap in the face. You got to. You really got to. So at this point, this is unprecedented, very historic, very, very historic. And I think that we need to keep that in mind, that you're talking about. And here's the other element of this history part. This guy is still planning to run. I mean, he's talking about running again. He's talking about throwing his hat to be the president again. After all of this, you would think, I got enough heat on me. Y'all understand? I got enough heat on me. Let me lay low for a little bit. Not this guy. He's like, I got enough heat on me. They love me. The lights, they love me. Crazy, absolute madness. And it makes mockery for those who say, okay, this is democracy. And this makes mockery. It's going to be very interesting to see how the GOP plays out on this. Are they going to side with the Democrats, quote unquote, or with this committee, quote unquote, to say, you know what, we need to prosecute this guy? Or are we going to see the voices, the likes of Ted Cruz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them start to, oh, well, this is un-American. This is going to be interesting. Let's go back to a couple of more of your thoughts. Let's first take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to go back to a couple of more of your thoughts. I see my sister Corinna, who did an excellent job coming on the show last week. We're going to have to bring her into the conversation. And so many of you know your worth. You're definitely going to, you definitely said something to us that I think that is very poignant and succinct. So we're going to get your thoughts as well. So stay with us. It's a lot to talk about as we continue the conversation about the January 6th committee here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage. as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back. We've been talking about the latest coming out of Washington, D.C. with the January 6th committee hearing, where they have took the unprecedented and historic step of recommending former President Donald Trump to be prosecuted for a criminal investigation for his involvement, his extensive involvement in the January 6th storming of the Capitol. This is, like I mentioned, historic, unprecedented for any U.S. president to find himself in. And unlike any other U.S. president, this one president was trying to do his best to disrupt the transfer of power. And many say that he undermined democracy. And so since we are at this place, folks, you know, I expected the J6 committee, and I'm taking your word, Corinna, J6, I expected the J6 committee to make a move like this. If they didn't, I mean, I already knew they did because Liz Cheney was, y'all know, Representative Liz Cheney was going to make this move happen anyway or not. But the point is, they had to. They had to. You cannot talk about checks and balances in a system, and then when one of the biggest breaches, one of the major aberrations of the system happens, no one's there to hold people accountable or put the check back in balance. You got to. All right, let's go back to here where folks saying, Corinna, you checked in and said, look, now we have to see what the special counsel appointed will do with the J6 committee's recommendation. I agree. I think, DeAndre, you said it earlier in this last segment. You talked about, like, you don't think that they're going to be riding with Trump this quite as much this go around, especially with all of this other stuff looming over the former president. I agree. So I don't think that the special counsel is going to try to hold off on this and all of that. I don't think the DOJ is going to try to hold off on it. I think that in order for this to happen, or in order for America to kind of get some stability back in this uncertain space that we find ourselves in, you got to deal with the Trump situation. I'm going to call it the Trump factor, right? You got to deal with the Trump factor in order for this country to get a sense that justice will be served. No one's above the law. You got to address the Trump factor to bring some order. Now, here's the other thing. Politically, it may not be the best in the sense of you still have very loyal Trump followers out there who may respond in kind. They may respond with the next election. They may respond in violence. But guess what? Deal with that too. I remember when President Biden said, he said, you think you going up against the, never forget. I never heard this flex from the president. He flexed and it's like, this is the United States of America. We will shut you down. We have helicopter, what he said, how he said, he basically made the point that we have machinery, we have artillery, we have the equipment to go to war with you. Speaking to Trump supporters. Thinking you're going to come up in here with some little, we will. I mean, and I hope it doesn't get that way, because when you get into a certain space like that, anything could happen, right? So you don't want to cause a civil war, but you got to address this. You got to address this. And this is beyond just political party, obviously. This is talking about order. This is talking about potential anarchy. You got a man in Trump who has literally talked about disobeying, forget the Constitution. We need to just throw that out the window. So if you are calling for there to be violence, anarchy, disorder, chaos, and confusion, you are a problem. You are a real problem. All right, let's go back to what folks got to say. Sean Ryan, you checked in and said, look, we had it better with Trump, though, didn't have to pay an extra $120 for groceries and $5 a gallon of gas. I don't know I don't know where your gas is at or what city you in, Sean, but in LA, gas has actually gone down a lot. And guess what? Well, look. This is understanding that the market is volatile. The market goes up and down. It's not just about the president. First thing, the president doesn't set the gas prices. The president, it's about the marketplace, right? It's about the supply, demand. It's about, a lot of other economic factors. Yes, some people might say, well, if certain presidents were in office, we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't have this problem. We might have had a new and much bigger problem. So we can't go back and forth and say, if Trump was in office, we wouldn't be at war with Russia. Okay. We probably would not be at war with Russia, but something else could have happened. We could say, oh, inflation wouldn't have happened. Well, I don't know. We can't, because that's dictated by a different set of factors. So I wouldn't jump to say if Trump was, because I think that Sean, that speaks to not understanding how the system really works, how the market works, how you have all of these different components of this system that play off of each other. It's not just about one man, one person sitting in the seat and then everything goes according to plan. Because let's keep it real. When Trump was in office, certain things didn't happen, but a hell of a lot of other things did. January 6th, okay? When we saw that rash of police shootings, and even during Trump's period in office, did that stop, or did he make an attempt to quell the violence there? Did he not bomb protesters, both black and white, that were in Washington, D.C. to walk across the street from the White House to the church so that he could do a photo op? Did that not happen? Is that not problematic that you're bombing peaceful protesters? Come on. We're comparing like apples and oranges in my case, in my view. All right, let's go to Ming Lee, Natasha Surge. You said it's like Trump is one of the untouchables or something. All this evidence stacked up against him and nothing happens. Facts. Hey, Ming Lee, I said that from the beginning. I don't understand it, bro. I don't understand it. But I do understand it because when you have an alliances and you have allegiances, and when you get in a little something here and getting a little something there, it creates this type of dynamic, right? Where the person who's at the center of it really don't get held accountable, really is not punished. And so that's what we're seeing. Good point. DeAndre, see, you said facts, the show looks good on paper, but what actual truths will be told? What actual justice will be served? What are the consequences either way? There's pros and cons to everything, but facts are facts. Right. So the man couldn't do a transfer of power. And I'm going back to what Sean Ryan pointed out. He could not accept losing an election. Therefore, he wants to disrupt the whole situation. He wants to come across as a sore loser. He can't get it. He's not accepting this fact. He puts out a lie, right? A lie that the election was a fraud. He's harassing people. Y'all remember from that testimony from the J6 committee of those two black women, the one that was the poll worker down in Georgia, caused her life to be a living hell. Is that what you want, Sean? Is that what people who just volunteered their time for us to exercise our quote unquote right to go to the polls And because a joker don't like the fact that he lost, it's okay. Yeah, we'll keep him in office. But you're going to make her life a living hell. Please. And it's just simple. It's about the fact that this guy constantly is under scrutiny. And I'm going back to what Ming Lee said. And nobody wants to hold him accountable. You're not above the law, bro. You're not above the law, Trump. You're not above the law. All right, let's go to one more comment. Then we got to take our next pause. But Tiana, you checked in and said they were going to raise prices anyway. The corporations took advantage of the pandemic. Come on, let's talk about that for a moment, quick moment. Exactly. We acting like, oh man, these are. How about the PPP loans that were given to major companies that was initially for small businesses? That happened under Trump. Was that fair? No. How about schools and other institutions that already have large endowments getting PPP loans? Individuals. Go down, look. You can go to, look, remember when the government when they talked about Biden giving back money for student loans, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans talking about, oh my gosh, the government should not be helping people and to this extent. But then when you look at their records, they got millions of dollars in PPP loans to get their businesses and their other individual efforts out of the dirt. That happened under Trump. Should we not say anything? Come on. Corporations are reaping rich while the people are in a public health pandemic, a public health crisis. We talking about, well, inflation shouldn't happen. But the corporations are setting the prices for a lot of this stuff to happen, right? The people, the constituents, you and me, we got to get masked up. We're told not to go this place and that place. We're talking about all these precautions. But then these companies are just, while we are trying to stay healthy and well, they reaping rich. Please. There needs to be a disruption in all of that madness because it's not fair, nor is it right, nor is it good for the American people, especially Black folks in this country, especially marginalized communities, poor whites, Latinos, the Native Americans, the Asian Americans. Everybody is catching it. And we're supposed to care about a corporation or other entity because they can't get a tax credit or they can't get the benefits. Please. All right, look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears. Let's talk. When we're talking about having these conversations, well, where do you have it? We have them on social media. Well, it looks like one social media company on Twitter is under scrutiny because its latest leader has put himself there. We'll talk about it. We'll check in with Shireen Mitchell, who is our tech analyst, and give us some insight around this Twitter poll that says Musk must go. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape. With me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a balanced life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're going to be joined by our tech analyst, Shireen Mitchell, in a few moments, but wanted to bring us up to speed on what is going on with Twitter, as Twitter owner Elon Musk put himself out there, put himself right under the microscope. I'm trying to understand why. Okay, so there's already been a lot of talk about the direction that the social media platform has taken. And so last night, Elon Musk, who is the current leader of Twitter, the current owner of Twitter, he put out a tweet saying, just to kind of rate his progress on turning the social media into a free speech oasis. So he asked Twitter followers, hey, I'm just asking. Let me know if you think I should stay as the leader of Twitter or if I should go. Let me share with you what the Twitter users had to say on this subject. 17 million. Excuse me. Take a look at this here, folks. This is the latest. Musk said he would abide by the results of the unscientific poll, which began Sunday evening and concluded with 57.5% voting yes, go, 42.5% voting no, stay. Yeah. So according to the poll results, Mr. Musk, you must go. Question is, will he abide by his own poll and his own users? Let's check in with tech analyst Shireen Mitchell to give us her take on this situation. Shireen, good afternoon. How are you feeling this afternoon?
I'm doing good. You know he ain't going nowhere. Let's be honest.
Can I ask you a question, Shireen?
Yeah.
Why would he ask such a question?
Because he's expecting to get the public opinion in a way that makes him feel good. And he thought that no matter what happened, no matter what he was doing on the platform, that his followers, the sycophants would say, would win over the number. And now he realizes that that's not true. I honestly believe, really, really in my heart, that booing that happened while he was at Dave Chappelle's show has not left his soul. He is still trying to figure out a way to make it look like that, the people around him are just telling him how great he is and that the rest of the world believes he's great too, when that's not true. And he's learning that, his behavior is just not an acceptable behavior for the rest of us. And he does think that what he's doing is somehow this sort of like neutral ground while being extremely harmful and not realizing who he's harming. And I don't think, in truth, he cares. I just think he cares about who thinks he's doing a good job. And that poll was an example of people saying, you're not doing a good job. So we'll see what happens.
You said that poll was an example of people saying, 17 million followers. Million votes for cast.
Voters.
17 million voters.
17 million people and 57% still told you no. That's not like, 12 people or 100 people in your circle, right? You got millions of people. This is very similar to someone who's a politician who who ends up losing the vote, and they're looking at those numbers to see how much they lost by. That's this example. That means millions of people said no to you. And that
if he was a politician, he would just. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shireen.
No, I'm just saying that's a completely different energy. If you're out here walking around thinking that people love you and like everything you're doing is amazing and your stuff don't stink, and you get like millions of people going, "Nah, son, we don't like you. We don't like what you're doing." He does not understand the difference, which is very clear, between his technical quote unquote know-how and his social prowess. Those two things are not the same. You're not a genius for either of those two things, because you need to be able to manage both. So what you just said to the rest of the world, I claim to be a genius, but I really don't know how people tick. But I'm going to work and own a social platform where people exist and know how to make it work.
I mean, it's crazy. Look at this, folks. Here's I can't stop laughing. I'm like, bro, why did you talked your way out the job? Part of me is there's a little part of me, there's a little conspiracy theorist in me, Shireen, that's like, did you want an opening? Did you just, are you finding that you can't take this job as, your skin is real thin on this job, sir. So you just need it out.
I think that there's like a combination of things that's probably going on there. Like
right.
He really, like he knows the sentiment he's getting from people probably on site and how problematic that is. I mean, think about he banned journalists and then he had to bring them back, but he didn't bring them all back, right? Lynette Lopez is one of the women of color journalists that has not been brought back. He's picking and choosing, and he's not realizing that in that picking and choosing, people are realizing you keep saying that you want this thing to be fair, you want this to be balanced. Nothing you're doing is fair and balanced. So how do you think that comes off when your care and concern about you and your family is a priority in comparison to everyone else on this app? Do you know how many people have been doxxed on this app? Do you know how many times people have asked for things to be taken down on this app and none of it has happened? And he could just willy-nilly cut off spaces, cut off journalists, cut off free speech in whatever manner that he feels like because he's the CEO while he screams free speech absolutionists?
Yeah.
None of that is anything close to a balanced view of even operating this company. But he also thought that he could do all of that and not have any federal interference or any other rules or laws that he had to follow. Anyone who thinks like that is not really the businessman that we are anticipating operates in America the way American laws are supposed to operate. Can we be fair about that?
Absolutely. That's a great point. Great point. Tiana checked in and said he didn't want to buy Twitter in the first place. So he didn't want to buy Twitter in the first place until he was made to. So at this point, it just comes across as being an out. Interesting. No,
I don't disagree with her too much. Like when the first kind of back and forth happened, he was forced into it because he was about to lose money if he walked away from it because he agreed to a contract. So there's a technical reality to that. Like financially, he was going to lose. I think he's losing way more now than he did before, even trying to take over this company. But even his lawyers were saying, hey, like you don't he had to see the reality of the statements that he was making. I don't think he actually talked to his lawyers before he decided to even try to purchase this and even go into the contract in the first place. Again, not huge business acumen to me if that's like you didn't really want to buy it, but you got forced into it. That's business savvy. That's genius making. Help me understand that because that doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely. When we look at how he has been moving on this platform, where he has created this quote unquote, I would say more of an open door transparency type of policy where he wants to engage and involve users in the decision making of the platform. Because this is what we saw when he talked to, when you just mentioned it, that new policy about doxing folks for speaking up about various things, the journalist situation. That policy was deleted less than 24 hours after its introduction. Elon also said going forward that he would poll Twitter users to let them decide on policy changes. I'm wondering, for the social media space, that could be way like problematic.
It can be gamed. It's really, actually, I think there's a report that came out. I'm forgetting the article, but the person who led Trust and Safety said that the polling process can be gamed in any way. Wow. If you aren't participating in getting rid of the fake accounts and you're okay with the fake accounts following you because it makes you feel like you're being retweeted and your comments are important in the context, that same gamification can be used in the polling process. So when he says, I'm going to use the polling process, I find it really funny because he's trying to make it look like that this is a democratic process. This is not democratic. Anyone can come up with an account. And I keep reminding people, way back in 2016, when the Russian interference happened, one Russian troll controlled 500 accounts.
Wow.
So if that was the case back in 2016, we may have gotten some removed and some mitigated. But can we just be fair about, like, is that truthful in the context of the polling? That's really important in this context, because people, and I'm sure he believes this, by the way. I'm sure other people believe that no matter what happens with this poll, he's at least getting the real conversation. But honestly, him as well as Agent Orange 45, Trump, before he got off the app, he had like about 80% of his accounts were fake or manufactured. So, Elon Musk is not that far away from about 70%. It might be lower. So the polling process that he's looking for is that he's looking for answers that he already has planned in his head. Like when he did the poll for Agent Orange 45, he was already planning to bring him back on. He said it already.
Wow.
He wanted to make it look like, oh, this is just, the public is also agreeing with me. That is not the case. That's not how this works. And the manipulation of even the narrative of that is also problematic, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Shireen, we just to hold on just for a few moments longer. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation, continue to take your thoughts about Twitter, as this new poll shows that Elon Musk must go. What's your take on that situation? Stay with us. That conversation continues up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back. We are continuing our conversation talking about the fate and future of Elon Musk and Twitter, as a new poll that the president that Elon Musk has actually created. A new poll shows that more Twitter users, take a look, folks, more Twitter users said that Elon Musk must go than those who told him to stay. This is an unofficial poll that he put out there yesterday. He posed a question. Let's show that poll one more time. Let's put it on the full screen, please, Keenan and Ariel. He said, should I step down as head of Twitter? I will abide by the results of this poll. 57.5% have said yes, go. 42.5% said no. Final results, the poll was voted on by 17.5 million people. What do you do with that? Of course, Elon Musk has not responded. I'm sorry, folks. It's just like, what were you trying to do? I get it. You want to be Mr. Transparency, but this just sounds silly. I want to bring back our tech analyst, Shireen Mitchell. She's the founder of Stop Online Violence Against Women. This is just absolutely, I've never seen this. And you know what? I really do hope, and I don't know where this would fall under, Shireen, and I don't know, I want to get your take on when we're talking about regulation of social media platforms, right? When we're talking about, what government agency would be responsible? Because this just is a key example of why there needs to be regulation from the government side and not just the private owned companies. And I get it. Yeah. Here's why I'm saying this, because these platforms have become so powerful and influential in dictating or determining political agenda items, and determining, in some cases, the national election. So why shouldn't we have a real, and I'm talking about a serious conversation about regulation? Which institution, or what agency rather, would be responsible, Shireen, that you think would kind of oversee this? Would this be the Department of Justice? Would this be Homeland Security? Who would be responsible for that?
So there are two things that is being discussed right now. One is the conversation around Section 230, and that's a congressional argument. But honestly, let's just be fair, y'all. There is already a dissent decree from FTC. I haven't seen the outcomes of it, but honestly, I don't think he's even complying to that. You have to remember that the people who quit right around those last couple of weeks, the dissent decree reports were due. I saw email exchange that basically said that the personal lawyer of Elon of Apartheid Clyde literally said that he put people on the planet, put people out in space. The FTC is no big deal to him. He doesn't take any of that seriously. As a matter of fact, if you think about some of the things he does when he's challenging some of the members of Congress on Twitter, he thinks he can use that as a way to garner favor from his audience to challenge those congressional members or those government officials. I find that a very interesting tactic, but I don't agree with anyone thinking that that's going to work. But we haven't seen yet the outcomes of whether or not they've actually answered their dissent decree from the FTC. Twitter was already in trouble before he took over. I think that's the part that people forget.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a very serious offense. So the FTC is literally where it sits. And I just think it's fascinating that people think that private businesses would not have to answer to any of these agencies. That's not true.
And it's like a citizen wouldn't have to answer to government.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, wait a minute, hold up.
If you don't pay your taxes, if you do something illegal, the government comes in and responds. And so the concept that he said, well, I'm going to take Twitter private. Here's one of the things I learned about this back and forth that I think is really important that people don't realize. Remember, he was saying he was trying to make Twitter profitable. Right. Some of the things that if you go back, and I swear, everyone, you should follow Lynette Lopez. She's not on Twitter anymore, but please follow her work on. She's a reporter on Business Insider. She actually followed this, that one of the things that Twitter was doing was paying their staff through stock options. That means the public trading of Twitter was paying staff. You take Twitter off of the public trade and you make it private. Where's those dollars coming from? Right? Is it just coming from ads now? Because then we're having a separate conversation now, right? We're having a multi-tier, because he thought that he could just bring it down and then control the narrative. But if it's true that Twitter was actually paying staff from stock options, which is because it was being publicly traded, and I think the number at this point is $400 per stock. If that number drops in context, when it was publicly traded, then Twitter was having money problems. So imagine him saying that Twitter was having money problems and then takes it off the stock exchange. So where's the funding coming from now?
It brings up an excellent point. You're bringing up an excellent point. And let's continue to go down this road, Shireen, because it goes to show you how much the bottom line on how profitable a situation is that determines whether that situation is good for the American people. And
exactly.
you can't look through that lens of capitalism, money making, profitability, bottom line. You can't continue to look at this lens and say, oh, okay, this is good and this is not good for the American people. Like, your lens is already clouded. Your view and judgment is already clouded as a result of that. And so, that's the other thing about this is that, you have a major public platform that has access to millions of people's data, personal information, right? That people willingly give up. That's the other point, because we're made to believe that it's all secret. It's all safe and secure.
It's
right?
not.
And it's not. And even though we know that, right, they come out with more stuff to get more information about it. Now, and I'm sure you've been seeing this. Now there's the technology around faces, and I get it. Face imaging, facial recognition, all of those things. Like all of this data that we give willingly, and it's like we're not paying for this. Nobody is charging you a monthly fee to get on social media.
You're paying for it with your data.
You're paying for it with your data, right?
That's what you're paying for. That's what you're doing.
And now it creates this other world, this other space where now these social media platforms have so much information about you that now they can dictate how, play with your behavior, appeal to your senses. It's just getting really, really kind of like big brotherish, and it's getting to be in a different space of the conversation. But more importantly, the money. Money is at the root of all of this.
Yeah, I think about that in the context of like people not understanding what happened with the Lancer thing, which I think is what you're speaking to, is the AI and the avatar graphics that happen. The bottom line is that someone created an AI product. Actually, two things have happened recently, and I just want to make sure that people understand this. One is the Lancer thing, where the AI basically created all these images of you because you dumped your image, by the way, data collection, adding to the data set, and then pushed out images for you that you would like and maybe not like, but you also pay for it. You're paying for it, but the person who's getting the money is the person on the other end who basically dumped a whole bunch of other data sets from other artists and now is getting money for something they didn't do outside of creating the AI. The same thing happened. There's like a book out. I can't remember the name of the book right now, but like a gentleman did the same thing. He created a book where he asked, an AI chat to basically tell a story about a girl, and it created both images as well as the story. He's now selling the book. He didn't create the story. He didn't come up with the narrative. He didn't come up with the images, but now he's selling it, making money from it. we're having a really difficult conversation about like the way in which our data is being used to basically profit individuals who can basically code, right? And can come up with something. But the AI itself is not neutral. It basically is stealing from all of our ideas that's already in the ether, all of the data we've already given it, and it's using it to allow certain people who can figure out how to manipulate the AI to give them resources that they need.
Yeah.
That is to say that AI is in itself not faulty. It is the people who decide to use it for these means. And that's the problem I think we're missing. And this gentleman who's taken over Twitter has not learned about that concept, even though he's in the tech space. Because I really don't think people understand the problem with Twitter isn't a tech problem. It's a social problem. And not understanding those distinctions is the reason why he's failing at this particular part. Because if you remember, if he said, I just need code. I need to fire people who are not doing the right code. Remember that? How long is your code?
Yep.
That is not an engineering framework. You don't ask people how long is your code. You want to know what the code does and how it works. You don't care what the length of it is. So in those moments, even I know he is not an engineer. He's not the genius you think he was.
Shireen, we got to stop it right there. I'm blown away by that because you're absolutely right. We're seeing this and it's unraveling, and it's very, very problematic. And we haven't even talked about some of the things, and certainly I'll bring you back on, but we need to talk about how that impacts Black communities, marginalized community, how it impacts women of color specifically. I mean, we have to talk about this because we're seeing the breakdown of a social media platform, and yet we're still haven't fully like processed it yet. And I think we need to have some much more.
No, we need more conversations about this because I don't think people understand the ramification. They keep calling him Elmo. I call him apartheid Clyde because people don't realize the damage and the harm that's really being inflicted, not only in the tech industry, but on this platform alone.
That is Shireen Mitchell, who's our tech analyst here on The Culture. You can find her at Digital Sister on all social media platforms. Shireen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me as always. I'm always willing to come back.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about Deion Sanders, who came out to set the record straight about his move from Jackson State to Colorado University. We're going to share with you what the Hall of Famer had to say. And also, we're going to have a conversation about Puerto Rico wanting to become the 51st state of the United States. Stay with us. The Culture is coming up next here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Okay, let's shift gears. Now, I wanted to have this conversation about Deion Sanders. We've been talking about the Hall of Famer who turned head coach of JSU, Jackson State University. We've been talking about him for the past few weeks because of the impact that he was able to make in just that 2 year time, 3 years time, well, about 2 years time that he was with the university in Jackson State and in Mississippi. But more importantly, the impact that he's made on HBCU and black college football and the understanding of turning a team that was not as successful into a successful team over a short period of time is absolutely amazing, to say the least. Now, that has led to Deion Sanders making a new decision to take his talents elsewhere, from moving from Jackson State, Mississippi, all the way to Colorado, which is a PWI or predominantly white institution, that got people in a uproar saying that he turned his back on his people and his community. Let me bring my guy Scotty, who's host of and the founder of Offscript TV that you can find on IG, and get his take on this. Because Scotty, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. We got Scotty on. Let's bring Scotty in. But I wanted to play something that I saw over this weekend because, and if you haven't had a chance, folks, Black Star Network, Brother Roland was down for the great Celebration Bowl that they had and this past weekend. And Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, was the coach for the team. He had said this before when he made his announcement that he was moving to Colorado, that he would continue to coach the team during the Celebration Bowl. This is what he said. Then I want to get Scotty's take on it, and I want to hear from you folks of my online culture crew. Check us out what Coach Prime had to say.
Once did I say they're going to put a tombstone with my name on it at Jackson State, so I wasn't going to die here. Y'all know that. Everything I said I would do, I did. Everything I said I wanted to happen, I tried my darnest to make it happen. We've exceeded, I think, expectations in some realm. But when I don't fit into someone else's plan and purpose, now there's ridicule. But you forgot about my plan and God's purpose. That's where the dysfunction comes. I reached a point where I said to myself, we're going to go out there and recruit another great class. And we were, and TC will. And we're going to win again. So at what point do we keep dominating that you don't get mad at us for dominating? Because it's a level of dominance where you start to turn. And I felt that. We start to get tension from our own people because you're dominant and you start saying, well, that's Prime. He can recruit that. We ain't got that. We don't have this. We heard that last night. You're 4 and 5 stars. Yeah, because we recruit those and they sign. But it comes a time that that's not what it's all about for me. I'm a winner. I've always won. I'm going to win. Y'all know that if you've done your homework. But it's bigger than that. It's about increasing enrollment. It's about the safety of students. It's about going to the next level, not just in football. I would love to go to another conference. Is the rest of the school ready? Is the baseball team ready? Is the basketball teams ready? Or just the football team? So you make it just about football, and it's not just about football to me. It's about our trainers and kids that the fire alarms may go off and not being turned off at 3:15 in the morning. It's about people that may not have the proper safety on a campus that they should. I'm not just talking about Jackson State. I'm talking about everywhere. So the things that I want to accomplish, I can't do it by just being the darn football coach and winning games. I can't do it. And I reached a point where I had a real conversation with the Lord. Now, it's funny how you believe the Lord when he said to come here, but you don't believe me when I tell you the Lord may tell me to do otherwise. It's like my God is talking to you about me. I don't think he works like that. But it's so much more that I can't do because that's not my occupation. I'm a football coach and a darn good one. And name one thing in football that we haven't accomplished that I said we would. But it's bigger than that. And until we address these underlying issues that nobody wants to talk about, ain't nothing gonna change. Football, yes. But what else is gonna change? And I'm a change agent. That's what it's all about to me. Because I'm not just attached to the football players, the equipment persons, the trainers, the academic persons, everybody on campus. When we leave, you're going to find out what all we did. Because they don't really talk about the positivity until we go. You'll find out what all we did for Jackson State and all we wanted to do for Jackson State. I just pray to God that in all that get some understanding on change and where change really starts. And it does not start in the football department. So I thought it was good. That was a moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, Coach Sanders.
Thank you, Sam, for clapping me off.
Is he setting this? Did he set the record straight, Culture Crew? Share your thoughts with me. Post your comments in our chat on YouTube, Facebook, Black Star Network. Let's bring my guy Scotty of Off Script TV. Checking in with him. Can we get Scotty on? All right, we don't have, okay, he's not on. All right, I got my brother Michael in Hotep on. Let me get my brother Michael in. Brother Michael.
Hey,
we got you,
man. Faraji.
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm all right, brother.
All right, good. What do you make of what Deion had to say? That he did what he set out to do in the football space.
Right.
He wanted to do more for the university at large. And he just made a decision that he felt was the best decision for him. People are still upset. People still for a certain type of way, Brother Michael, about this change. But what do you make of it?
Well, he's talking about purpose. And he said he was led to Jackson State University, led to HBCUs by God. And he's basically saying he's led to Colorado State by the same God as well. And he's talking about purpose, and he's talking about a purpose beyond coaching in football also. Right. And what was interesting is that so many people, and you got people running around doing interviews and castigating him and saying he's a disappointment because he didn't do what they said their purpose was for him. They haven't had a conversation with him. Yeah. Okay. He's talking about being driven by the same passion, by the same God that brought him to Jackson State University. And he's talking about increasing enrollment. And it sounds like and we're going to find out all that he did with Jackson State University as well, because as I said, I can't remember. Actually, it was on Charlene Mitchell's show here in Detroit, 9:10 a.m. WFDF, the radio station I'm on, and also talked about it on my show. There was an article from thegrio.com, I think it was. I'm trying to pull this up, where he donated half his salary to finish the stadium there at Jackson State University. Okay, that doesn't get talked about. All right, so is much more to Deion than football, and people are trying to just keep him in this little box, and he's saying he's much more than that, and the impact that he's going to have, the impact that he's had on Jackson State University and the impact that he will have on Colorado is much more than football as well. So people are trying to project their own shortcomings onto him.
Talking about purpose, let's bring my guy Scotty Off Script TV on. Hey, Scotty.
What's goody?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well.
So Deion just wanted to set the record straight this weekend, giving some remarks about his decision. What do you make of it, Scotty?
Listen, once again, I never blame somebody for
doing better for them or trying to upgrade in what their profession is. He's been at the highest of heights as a player. Why would he not expect to try to challenge himself as a coach? The thing about donating his salary to finish, and that's not true. Like, the narrative has been flipped, right? So the project was already done. What Deion added his money to was to things that he wanted added, and that the workforce, that they would add more workforce to get it done faster. So that's really what he added his money to. It wasn't that
by August. I think it was like by August of 2022 to get it done by that time.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just he wanted to start the season with, the player, the renovations being done towards the Walter Payton Center so that his players could go in to have the players lounge. And it's nice. Don't get me wrong. I've seen it. It's nice inside. But, people like to kind of, change the narratives a little bit. And then you get all this prime, as we call them in the space, primettes who are prime. But you're like, you haven't been on the ground, or you haven't talked to the people on a day-to-day at the HBCUs who say, like, don't get me wrong, they're grateful for Prime, but there's a lot of things that Prime did not do that he gets a lot of credit for that it had nothing to do with him.
So at this point, I mean, do you feel like the record is being set straight? I mean, his explanation of why he's deciding to make a move and what was going on in his head during that decision, do you feel like it's clear that, or is there still going to be some more controversy around it?
It's always going to be some more controversy around it because of the fact of a lot of people are emotional. I said it last time, when you bring God into anything around the Bible Belt, it's going to have a complication to it because, people are going to start challenging you on your rhetoric or when you came. You said God brought you here. You said you were going to do this. You said you was going to change the playing field. You said you was going to level the playing field. You said, you're going to have people come back home. So now you have all these players that came to HBCUs and you leave. Now all the players you brought that were supposed to level the playing field, that was supposed to change the game, they're leaving with you to go to Colorado. So now Jack State is back into the deficit that it was when you first got there. So how does that make sense?
Scotty.
Hold on, bro, Michael. I want to get your take on that, what Scotty just said, but we got to take the next pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Brother Michael and Hotep. We'll continue it with Scotty of Off Script TV and with you. Post your comments in our chat on Facebook, on YouTube. Let's continue the conversation as Coach Prime attempts to set the record straight about his tenure at JSU and his decision to go to Colorado State. Stay with us. That conversation continues up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, we've been talking about Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, about some of the remarks that he made at the end of the Celebration Bowl this weekend, where he attempted to set the record straight as to why he decided to make the big move from Jackson State to Colorado State, where a lot of people feel like Coach Prime has turned their back on them. And Scotty, host of Off Script TV on IG, you can check him out. And all of the things that he's covering in the world has been on this conversation, on this story since Coach Prime has made his entrance into the HBCU football world. And then we're also joined by Brother Michael Imhotep of the African History Network podcast. So make sure y'all tune into that as well. But Scotty, you saying that essentially that these students who came to Jackson State was able to get some victories, but now that Coach Prime is moving on to his Colorado State, and they're deciding that, look, I'm going to leave too, putting Jackson State back down in the deficit, even though they have chosen. I mean, JSU is going to still be in a deficit considering they had chose TC already, who a man who has worked under the leadership and the mentorship of Coach Prime.
Man, listen, this is the beauty. It's like sad, but it's funny to me because when everything was going down and you had people like, oh, these kids are choosing Jackson State because of the culture, and I kept preaching on my channel, they're there for Prime. Mm-hmm. Travis Hunter was not there. Listen, I agree with what Deion said when he brought Travis Hunter and said, you know, if you come here, you would change the culture, you'll change the narrative, which he did. For that month, everything was about that. But who's in the transfer portal? Travis Hunter. Who also is in the transfer portal? Kevin Coleman, who's also his own son, Shiloh. I mean, I can go. There's 30 kids in the transfer portal as of right now that he has some ties to bring into Jackson State. So I asked everybody who's watching this, was it for the coach or was it for the culture? That's the question, because the narrative Deion was pushing was that these kids need to come back home to Jackson State, to HBCUs, so that they can change the culture. Well, if you done took the players and you take them to the PWI, what culture they changing up at Colorado?
Well, let me ask you this though, Scotty and Michael. Should we even put that type of expectation on college football players? I mean, in the big scheme of things, right? Like, you're playing college football, right? These guys, for them, and Scotty, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but they are trying to put themselves in the best position to be a part of the NFL or to go pro, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming that's it. But then now it's like, and I think this is just across the board, not just with college football, but I think this is with any sport on a collegiate level. You're trying to figure out what's the best way for me to get to the big times? What's the best way for me to get to the pro? Should we even, Brother Michael, have a conversation about, hey, do this for our people. Do this for the culture. I mean, seriously, I'm just saying, because at the end of the day, they're wanting to be football players. We're not talking about people that want to be scholars and researchers and professors. Right. They want to play professional football, man.
They didn't go to JSU to play for prime time because they wanted the PhD. they went there basically because they want to become pro.
I feel like we're conflating a lot of different things here, Scotty.
We are.
I
think a lot of people are. Yeah, I think a lot of people are. So I can understand them wanting to leave JSU to follow Deion Sanders to Colorado State University because they want to follow a winner. And that was their coach.
Right.
So I could totally understand that. But what I think Deion is done, and this is what I was trying to get to before Scotty. The break, and the question I wanted to ask Scotty is that, do you think Deion Sanders has laid a blueprint for success for the next coach and a blueprint for other HBCUs to follow and coaches at HBCUs to follow? Because I see this as something bigger than just one person.
Right.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that, Scotty?
What blueprint? I mean, like, think about it. Okay. I'll just give it to in the basis of it.
Right.
Okay, we need an NFL Hall of Famer who's a black icon, because this is a one of one. Deion's a one of one. There's no other Deion Sanders. So you need a black icon, NFL Hall of Famer who has the pizzazz as Deion, who has the marketing guru, who's never stepped foot at Harvard, but they should have a Harvard class of marketing given to Deion Sanders. I just don't know where you find somebody else like that, because Deion was bigger than Jackson State.
Right.
The only person you can probably go to is a Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. But if you go there, there's still no guarantee. Deion was never a guarantee. Ray Lewis would not be a guarantee. Ed Reed would not be a guarantee of what they would bring to that institution or what success they will bring. Because I don't care how much you love Deion Sanders. If he didn't win, there wouldn't even be a topic. This wouldn't even be,
brother.
This wouldn't even be a conversation. But at the end of the day, Deion Sanders is always going to be Deion Sanders. So it wouldn't have been. It's a win-win for him, right? If I go to Jackson State and I turn it around and I get to coach my son and we do big things, that's great. If I go down there and I fail, he still walks away as Deion Sanders. But what is Jackson State left holding the bag on? The same situation they are now.
Well, maybe it's Scotty. It's Scotty. And I'm glad, Brother Michael, you posed that question because now it's
I have
like
a follow-up to it.
All right, cool. So here's the thing, though. If that's the case, then Jackson State needs to have a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the plan, listen, I posed a question to you guys. Who's the head coach of North Dakota State?
I don't know.
But they win.
Right.
They are a national powerhouse, not because they have Deion Sanders or Ray Lewis coaching there. It's because they are the flagship of that state, but they have a great football program. They recruit. You know what I'm saying? I can do the same thing about UIW. I can do the same thing about Sanford. I can do the same thing about all these FCS programs that win and don't have a big name guy at that institution. So what my blueprint is get a solid coach that can recruit and go beat some people in football that actually matter. Because if you go back, what was Deion Sanders' highlight win? Beating a 5-6 Campbell? You had the #1 recruiting class for 2 years straight. You never played any of the big boys. And then when you get in the MEAC, the Celebration Bowl, you get your butt whooped twice. So what? I mean, I just...
What he did was he brought a lot of attention to JSU, brought attention to a lot of people who don't follow HBCU football. And this is what I'm saying. So it may not be. It has to be somebody who can coach, and somebody with a football background. They probably played in the NFL. They don't have to be as big of a name as Deion Sanders. But one of the things that really made him successful is media, but especially social media. I'm not successful on the field, but garnering attention is media, but also social media. Okay, because clips of him in the locker room talking to his team, inspiring his team, things like this, interacting with parents, things like this. This gets into social media, which draws more attention to Jackson State University. So it's a whole marketing plan behind this that I think other HBCU coaches can learn from. They may not have a big name like Deion, as big of a name, I should say, as Deion. They may not have the flair, because the flair goes back to when he was playing, football and baseball at the same time. Okay. And I remember him, and I read his autobiography, How Success Ruined My Life, How Success Almost Ruined My Life. And I remember him talking about that the position he played in football was a cornerback, and it's not a position that draws a lot of attention. Okay, so he felt that he had to take on this persona of prime time with the flashy clothes and things like this to draw more attention to him, also, so he can make more money as well. Okay, it's a whole marketing strategy that goes back decades with him. So I think there's, and somebody with a business degree as well in marketing, I think there's a blueprint from the marketing perspective to draw more attention to HBCUs, HBCU football programs, right? And follow something that we learned from Deion Sanders, regardless of who the coach is. You have to win, of course. Right. I agree with Scotty on that. You have to win, but there's a whole marketing perspective here that I think a lot of people can learn from as well.
Absolutely. Lori Parks checked in. Lori, you made the comment similar to what Brother Michael just made. You said this is the time for other ex-NFL players to step in to coach HBCU football programs. Now, here's the thing. And Scotty, I want to get your take on this. If this is the model, and I'm saying this from JSU's perspective, hey, let's get a big name. Let's draw them in. Let's get some wins out of this big name. Let's get some money for the program, this type of thing. And personally, I'm more of a systems thinker. I'm thinking hey, get something out of each big name that you bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Right? Get something out of it, not just the fans, the flighty stuff. I'm talking about get something legitimate out of it. You know what I mean? Start to build your situation. But I don't know. It's like, look, JSU was going to take this, since JSU decided to take this risk and it paid out for them, right? My concern is this might be seen as the ultimate business model, but it reminds me of when LeBron went down to Miami. Y'all know what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of that. I'm going to take my talents down to Miami. LeBron goes down to the Heat, play a couple of years, get some flash. Him and Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade. We're going to be the three amigos down there, and we're going to wreck stuff down in the league. And it's like, we see this in sports all the time. It's not about your name. It's not even about your one person. It's a team. These are team games. I'm a Ravens fan. I'm rocking Ravens now. I don't care how hot Lamar Jackson is that day. If his O-line, his defense, his special teams, if they all fall apart and they lose, can you really say Lamar Jackson won? No. And I think that this is a huge shift to changing the conversation about Black talent, Black skills coming to HBCUs. And look, he's going to do what he's going to do. I think Scotty, and to your point, Brother Michael, Deion is a master marketer. He knows how to bring attention to the situation. But at the end of the day, if JSU did not get something from him in terms of a legitimate blueprint, say, look, man, how can we keep this success going? How can we institutionalize your system? How can we make sure that we are getting the type of recruits? How can we make sure that HBCUs get money outside of the football program for the other stuff that you care about? Are they even having those conversations? Hey, look, I know you're going to Colorado, Deion, but are you still going to help us to be an advocate, an ambassador for JSU and HBCU? I mean, you got to get something from the deal, man.
Absolutely.
And you have to lay a blueprint. I mean, this is one of the reasons why, you had the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, that relied upon charismatic leadership. Where somebody like an Ella Baker was talking about, no, you need to get away from charismatic leadership, and the leadership needs to be decentralized, and it has to be more about the people as opposed to one charismatic leader. Okay. So we see this type of debate or this type of ideology clashing. We've seen this historically. Okay. And for HBCUs, HBCU football to really be successful, it has to be beyond one person. It has to be beyond one personality. Okay. And you've got to have a blueprint, a program for you to operate based upon when that person goes on to the next mission. Does your program just go up and just go poof in the air? You have to be able to continue. And that's what I think a lot of these JSU has to do, and a lot of HBCUs have to do. They have to have a succession plan after that one person who won the championships and brought the players. After they go on to the next assignment, what do you do next?
Absolutely. Hey, Scotty, we got like 30 seconds, a little bit less than 30 seconds. What do we make of this now?
All right.
What do we take from this?
All right. I'm going to go with Michael's, and I'm going to try to wrap this up in 30 seconds. What's so hard about the blueprint or asking to have a blueprint is you can't control kids. You can't control kids that are able to jump in the transfer portal and go whatever they see fit or follow a coach. So that is hard. Well, trying to promote TC Taylor, that was a retention plan. They were hoping that when we elevate TC Taylor, he knows these players, he'll stay home. The blueprint for me is where Michael touched on, is social media. Social media has to be the forefront of a lot of HBCUs. There's too much culture changing at HBCUs that are not put on the forefront of social media. Most of these dance moves go viral from HBCUs and things like that. Coaches have to be open to it because a lot of coaches are stubborn. They got to be open to it. The heads of these institutions have to be open to it. And the ADs and SIDs have to use the workforce on campus to use towards their social media, i.e. the kids that are going in your class that are doing social media every single day should also be running it, have oversight what they should be running it. I shouldn't have a 40-year-old man or 50-year-old man as an SID or AD trying to do TikTok. That don't even make sense. So it's little things like that that needs to be put in place, but social media needs to be huge. The accepting of social media needs to be huge, and more media presence by these black head coaches. You're a different culture. Be different. Stop trying to be PWI. Stop trying to do that. That's not your lane. If you talk a little trash at conferences and things like that, be yourself. And that will come off as natural, and that will be more impactful to people.
There it is. My guy, Scotty, host of Off Script TV on IG. Scotty, thank you so much, brother, for being our sports analyst here on The Culture. Truly appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the fate of Puerto Rico as they're looking to become the 51st state. We check in with Michael Hotep to get his take on this. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, for our final conversation today on The Culture, we wanted to talk about the possibility of Puerto Rico possibly becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. Let me share with you what the vote has been coming out of the House of Representatives. Take a look at this, folks, that they passed the bill. The U.S. House passed the bill on Thursday of last week that would allow Puerto Rico to hold the first ever binding referendum on whether to become a state or gain some sort of independence in a last-ditch effort that stands little chance of passing the Senate. The bill, which passed 233 to 191 with some Republican support, would offer voters in the U.S. territory three options: statehood, independence, or independence with free association. According to Representative Paul Grijalva, of the Democrat out of Arizona, he said, "It is crucial to me that any proposal in Congress to decolonize Puerto Rico be informed and led by Puerto Ricans." He serves as the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee, which oversees affairs in U.S. territories. It also was saying in that same piece, folks, that the proposal would commit Congress to accept Puerto Rico into the United States as the 51st state if voters on the island approved it. Voters also could choose outright independence or independence with free association, whose terms would be defined following negotiation over foreign affairs, U.S. citizenship, and use of the U.S. dollar. This has not been an easy fight. We still have work to do. Our quest to decolonize Puerto Rico is a civil rights issue. Man, there's the headline, folks, that the House approved this referendum to decolonize Puerto Rico and possibly making it the 51st state. Now it goes to the Senate. Brother Michael Hotep, host of the African History Network podcast show. Let's talk about this. How significant is this, Brother Michael? Is this something that we need to really keep our eyes on?
Yeah, I think this is very significant. we know that Puerto Rico became a territory of the United States in 1898 as a result of the Spanish-American War. And Puerto Rico was conquered by Christopher Columbus in 1493 on one of his voyages. He went on 4 voyages, and he conquered on behalf of the Spanish crown. So it was Spanish territory. We know they're setting up plantations, like sugarcane plantations, things like this into Puerto Rico, and they were importing Africans in, enslaving them into that land as well. So if now they are Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, but they can't vote in presidential elections. Okay, from their homeland, they can't vote in presidential elections, and so they don't have statehood. All right, they're not a independent country, and they don't have statehood. They are a territory of the United States. Okay,
so they're in limbo.
They're in limbo, and they're victims of colonialism by Spain and the U.S. All right. So if they became the 51st state, they would the way they vote, they lean more Democratic than Republican, generally speaking, and they would have 2 U.S. senators. Okay, they would have at least the population is 3.2 million. Okay, so they would have at least 1 seat in the House of Representatives. Okay. And they would have 2 U.S. senators. So that can make a huge difference when it comes to voting on bills and breaking a filibuster and changing the filibuster rules if Puerto Rico becomes the 51st state. Okay, so it's up to them how they vote. Is up to those who live on the island how they vote. But if they become the 51st state, this is a game changer. Okay, this is a game changer in getting bills passed and breaking the filibuster, but also this would come into play when you deal with the Electoral College as well,
right?
Because they would have at least 3 Electoral College votes associated with Puerto Rico. I'm not sure if they would have more than 1 seat in the House of Representatives, but they would have at least 1 seat in the House of Representatives. Okay, so you would have at least 3 Electoral College votes, because you take the number of seats in the House of Representatives a state has, and you add to that the number of U.S. senators a state has. Every state has 2 U.S. senators based upon the U.S. Constitution, so they would have at least 3 Electoral College votes. So this is huge right here.
This is really, really big, and I'm glad that you brought up that point, Brother Michael, about how many representatives they would be allotted and allocated. And I'm also thinking about that the Democrats still have a slight edge in the Senate because of Raphael Warnock winning that seat back. So that's
a huge difference.
I'm about to say this could. So you're literally talking about adding more seats to Congress.
Yes.
Which would require a whole nother process.
Right.
Because the last time when was the last time that we actually added the state? When was the last state added to?
There may have been like Alaska and Hawaii.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it was Alaska and Hawaii. The last time that happened, but this would tilt the balance of power. And this would make a huge difference, and this would tilt the balance of power when it comes to presidential elections also. So instead of 200 needing 270 votes, I think you would need 272 or 2. What would happen is if they had 1 House vote, if they had 1 seat in the House of Representatives, it would go from 435 seats in the House to 436. And it would go to either 271 or 272 that you would need to clinch the presidency. So, and this would make this could tilt the balance of power, because New York lost a Electoral College vote because of the 2020 census. Okay. If 89 more people had responded to the census, New York would have kept their 1 House seat, and they would not have lost Electoral College vote. Here in the state of Michigan, we lost an Electoral College vote, and we lost a House seat. So we went from 16 electoral college votes down to 15, and we lost the we had a merger of like the 14th and 13th congressional district here. So we lost a house seat here in the state of Michigan as well. So this could really make a big difference, especially if you have a close presidential election, right, where you have where it's very close with the electoral college votes.
Right. And here's the other implication that I'm thinking about, Brother Michael. And folks, I want you to join us in this conversation as we're talking about the possibility of Puerto Rico becoming the 51st state. Do you think that this would be good? Do you think that this will work for the United States? Share your thoughts on our chat on YouTube and Facebook. Here's what the thought that I was thinking, and I may be way off on this, but I'm just thinking that if you have Puerto Ricans, and we have to look at the numbers because I don't know them off the top of my head, but if we looked at the numbers and found that Puerto Ricans are inclined to Republican policies versus Democratic policies, but it's Democrats who are pushing forward and making this happen. When you said that this would shift the balance of power, not just in terms of the votes and the number of representatives, I'm thinking just in terms of the overall sentiment of the American people. I'm thinking like this could bring millions of people under the Democrat.
Possibly. So the population in Puerto Rico is 3.2 million. I'm not sure how many are of voting age.
Right.
But if you just cut that in half, you're looking at about 1.6 million. It can make a big difference. But what would happen is you're going to have you would have a fight between both parties trying to cater to those people there to get their vote and cater policies to those people there. And the other thing that we have to remember is that you got a lot of people of African descent in Puerto Rico as well.
Right.
Okay. So that's a wild card there also, that we can't forget that as well.
Right. So you got them black folks, them black Puerto Ricans, right?
Yeah.
Not just the light-skinned, fair-skinned Puerto Ricans.
Right.
You talking about them dark black folks.
The ones they don't show you on the Travel Channel. Yeah. Right.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
You got them black folks. I know you probably remember that. And I think he was Ilian Gonzalez. Remember that whole debacle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's when I really learned, Brother Michael, like, oh, they're light-skinned and they're dark-skinned Puerto Ricans. Like, right. Oh, okay.
Same thing with Cubans.
Right. They were Cubans and all of that. So it's like, but so, when you have that, I'm thinking about all of that. The implications, the ramifications of this could be huge, right?
Right.
But they got to go through that process of getting statehood and then being added.
Right. And it has to be the Senate has to vote on this as well. So we'll see what happens in the Senate.
Absolutely. This is going to be interesting, folks. So certainly we're going to do our best to keep our eyes on this situation. Brother Michael, we got a couple of moments left. Talk to us about your classes that you got for us.
Well, actually, Wednesday, December 21st is going to be our last class of 2022, our last class session. We're going to do a special session of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we're dealing with some of the history of the Moors and how the Moors lose power in Spain. And then we get into Christopher Columbus as well. So this is a good topic here, dealing with Puerto Rico in 1493. We're going to talk about that. And at the beginning of the class, we're going to talk some about the winter solstice and how the winter solstice is connected to Christmas. And we'll deal with some of the origins of Christmas also. So visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We look at some of the pre-Christian origins of Christmas. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, and scroll down to the class, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. This class is on sale $60, regularly $130. Keep scrolling down past the Kwanzaa stuff. All right. And we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Scroll right below that. You can go back and watch it anytime. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. So next class is Wednesday, December 21st, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a bundle pack of these classes. Also, you get both classes for only $100. That's over $260 value. I would say this information is PG-13, so you can use this with your youth. as well. And we have a bundle pack of my lectures in digital download format. You get 15 of my lectures for only $50. That's African History Awakens the African Mind to Mental Death. It makes a great gift. Visit theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com.
There it is, Brother Michael and Hotep. Always a pleasure, and thank you so much, brother.
Thanks, Raji.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
All right, folks.
Happy holidays and happy Kwanzaa to everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, dear brother. Folks, that's going to do it for us today. I thank each and every one of you. I thank my fantastic guest, Shireen Mitchell, checking in. I thank my guy, Scotty. I thank Brother Michael and Hotep. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. My online culture crew, continue to build, continue to have the conversations. Folks, this is what we're talking about. Make sure y'all go to Black Star Network, do your due diligence to support us, continue to support us as we are putting out the word, as we are talking about having the conversations, and most importantly, telling our story. Make sure you go to Black Star Network, support us financially and other ways, but we need your help to make this media a movement. Thank you so much for doing so. Thank you to shout out to my big team. I want to thank all of them for doing a fantastic job for today's show. Also follow me on social media at The Real Faraji and Twitter. All this week, we're going to be having some dynamic guests and some great voices. And it's going to be a short week because of the holiday. So, on Friday, we will not be doing a live show, but for the rest of the week, we will be giving you live shows. So thank you so much for your support. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.